Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly bump. I know this screen is black. I did something a little different that I want to share with you. I don't know whether I should or not. I was just feeling super creative this morning and feeling very inspired by the eclipse energy. So I decided to make this little, I don't know what you would call it, a poem or a little presentation or something. I just put some words to music and added some graphics to it. So anyway, it's only 2 minutes long. I hope you enjoy it, and then I'll see you afterwards with the cards. Thanks. Last week, I spoke about the liberation of our identity and what that truly means. Now is the time for us to understand our place in the cosmos, to reunite energetically with our true self. In so doing, we are afforded the opportunity to embrace our eternal, infinite nature and liberate our consciousness and redefine the meaning of the word life itself. We practice forgiveness, a theme of the Aquarius-Leo axis, while simultaneously fighting for justice and freedom. It is a time when extremes meet, where the differences become so vast that they circle back and become unified once again. There is no time for complacency. There is no time for rest. Full moon in Aquarius detaches us from all material. Detaching from the world, yes, but most importantly, our perception and understanding of it. At this time, Venus trines Pluto. In this case, Pluto is not one of sex nor soul. Today, he is the truth bearer. What is, is. He bears honesty. The only thing that is real is that we exist and that we co-create. With the release comes the conscious decision to reincarnate back into the moment as an elevated, higher vibratory entity, like sucking the air back in from a balloon we just inflated. We've breathed in new life. Our soul is no longer caged, but the conscious choice to create is now materialized. So what do we create? A better world. But not for us, but for our other selves. We are now our others. With fearless hearts, the heart of a lion, we proceed. We march, all together. We march back into the womb of creation as the North Node enters Cancer, and we leave the crystalline structures in the past. Hi you guys, I hope you liked that little video. I woke up this morning all in my feelings, had to let them out. Eclipse season for me, Leo stuff in general. I got Venus in there like I always say every week. It really just brings out this kind of more magical part of me. Plus we've got Venus coming in contact with it's coming conjunct my natal Mercury, my natal Sun. So I'm just kind of feeling artistic. Probably won't ever do that again, but we'll see. Let's see what the cards have to say. We got the Emperor coming out. This is going to be, for those of you who don't know, this is just a general video for the collective consciousness where I just pull cards just to kind of tap into the energy at play. And then just to sort of coordinate. Let's make sure we're all on the same page, yeah? We're going to be building this world together, this new earth that everyone keeps talking about. We better be on the same page. Okay, 10 of Cups and 3 of Wands reversed. Beautiful. What's happening? Okay. So, I mean, this is so fierce. There is kind of this reclusion going on with this eclipse stuff because of the Mars retrograde and the Uranus aspecting as well, squaring Uranus. It's kind of like it's loud inside, but on the outside world, it's like, I almost feel like there's not something that's really connecting, something that's not really matching, okay? And when we get the 10 of Cups, it indicates that we're headed in this amazing direction. we are headed toward our ultimate spiritual purpose. I'm going to try not to make this so huge because I just made that little video and, so let's bring it down to the individual level, okay? This is just happiness. This is an indication that the things that you do with your time, the way you treat people, it's going to pay you back. There's fulfillment here. There's stillness here as well. There is probably going to be a delay on things coming in, okay? Again, Mars retrograde, but it's still coming in. Just because it doesn't happen today, just because it doesn't happen tomorrow, doesn't mean it won't happen next month. The universe is kind of forcing us to stay put. Stay in this quiet place, to experience explosive change on the inside, but forcing us to see the resonance, to see the effects, to let the chips fall where they may, right, from the song from last week. So we are going to need patience. We are going to accept the fact that we just can't see everything yet, but we are still grounded. Okay? And as you see others who are, your groundedness is even that much more important. Okay? There is so much beauty and peace. There is so much godliness in peace. Okay. All these coming out reversed. See, this I think is maybe wise. I don't know, my camera keeps, I'll try not to move too much with the focusing. I think the communicating is a struggle. Okay, we do have the Mercury sitting at station right now, standing still before it starts going backwards. People are not gonna, that's why this Mercury, this eclipse stuff is kind of weird, because it's such a big deal, but it's not gonna seem like such a big deal. At the same time, it's gonna have this sort of coexistence of both energies. Big deal, yes, and not at all. People aren't going to be really communicating. They're not going to be really connecting with you right now. Relationships are going to be truthful, some a little bit harsh, okay? But I think there is going to be an essence of accepting truths, like I talked about in the little intro video. You might need to be more stern with yourself about where you want your life to go. And the more stern you are with yourself, the more stern you are with other people. And that, again, people not really liking that kind of stuff. But the Three of Swords, it needs to be eliminated. We need to get rid of this lingering heartbreak, this lingering sadness, this clinging. That's why I talk about forgiveness in the intro, because forgiveness is the key to our own freedom, which we hear people say that all the time, but to put that into practice, it's time for us to practice what we preach. Sometimes we feel like if we say something enough, then we actually believe it. Well, if we do something enough, then we'll actually understand it. I'm probably going to restart the affirmation challenge. I'm going to try to figure out if I still have that link available. The reaffirmation challenge that we did at the beginning of the year, for those of you who want to do it again, I had some people tag me on Instagram, and they had restarted. I had 2 people, they restarted it, like randomly one day. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'll definitely put that up if you guys want to do that. It's an amazing time to get that started. It's an amazing time to redo that. I think I might actually do it myself as well, because it is time for us to step into that divine power, that divine quality that makes us God entities, makes us stars, makes us suns, makes us our own center of our own solar system kind of thing, you know, our own divine quality. Let's see what else comes out here. Let's end it there. Wheel of Fortune is not a loud card. Absolutely requires faith and patience. You have set the wheels in motion, and you started it earlier this year when all the planets were going direct. I know you did. You planted all those seeds, you got all the ideas going, you wrote things down in your notebooks, in your journals, you started plans. They may have gotten a little off track when we hit Pisces season and everything kind of like went, oh, kind of weird. And now it's like, okay, well now is an amazing time, right? With Mars still retrograde, we can kind of go about things in a little bit of more relaxed manner. And now that we've had time to really digest these ideas, we can actually begin to see the bigger picture that I always kept talking about. Like, you're not seeing the big picture yet. You don't have all the information yet. Well, now you're starting to really see the big picture. Now you're really starting to see how you can make an impact in the world, with your friends and your family and with your communities and maybe even bigger than that. And fortune has been on your side all year in spite of the hiccups. It's always been there. It never went away. It wants your life to be easy. I think I've said so many times, like, Saturn's got enough to keep track of. You know, Saturn has enough to really deal with. And if it can get you off the docket, I'm sure he'll be super happy about that. Like, yes, please, let's get you off the karma track. Let's get you out of here. You know, I've got too much to contend with. Let's get as many people off this. I got too much of a load. So let's give Jupiter a whirl for once, you know? So yeah, the eclipses that everyone's talking about. Talking about, you know, I get different mixed messages, people talking about how it's going to be such a big deal. I think the Pluto Sun thing was way more of a big deal. It's either a huge thing and it's also dramatic, or it's not, you know, and it's all across the board. So just tells me everyone's going to be affected differently, like, of course. But, you know, I was given a document a couple weeks ago, and I finally got around to reading it. One of you sent it to me. And I'm going to read it to you. Before I do that, I want to show you. I woke up this morning and I was like, what is this weekly bump really going to be? What do I really... And I had 3 cards that just, boom, came to my mind. So I made a little kind of a graphic. I hope you guys don't mind the visual aids. Okay. These 3 cards, Tower, Sun, Judgment, boom, all 3 major arcana, they just came to me. It's like, this is the essence of the eclipse season. This is the essence of Cancer. This is the essence of entering into Leo. It's definitely coming out with a roar. Tower is beautiful. It enables those structures to be rebuilt. The sun offers its blessing. The sun is our central point of consciousness within the cosmic web of consciousness. It is our node, right? It's our local server, our local access to God, to the Creator, to the essence of the universe. And through our recent experiences, Judgment represents a level of ascension where, because of what we've gone through, because of this newfound understanding, especially those of you who have been meditating, I'm sure you can feel this kind of feeling of coming up out of the darkness. I'm sure you can. Now, the thing I'm going to read to you is kind of long, but it hit home because I think I even asked you guys once earlier this year, I was like, does anyone know why the planets affect us in this way? And a lot of people, like, why does Mars affect our sexuality? Okay, and there was all these people, well, it's a frequency, it has to do with its connection with our chakras, as above, so below. The planets are essentially us. Totally merited, I get it, completely 100%. But when you think of it from an as above, so below standpoint, it's like, well, then it's not really having the planets cause things or to affect us in certain ways isn't really a mirror, right? It's a force that's being forced upon us. But this little paragraph, these two little paragraphs I'm going to read, talk about how it's actually the planets are being affected just as much as we are through this universal template. Okay, so let me just read it to you. His language is much, much better than mine, much better than I can convey. So let me just read this. I know, it's two of these slides. So it seems unlikely to me that the planets send out some kind of physical emanations that causally influence events in human life in a mechanistic way. The range of coincidences between planetary positions in human existence is just too vast, too experientially complex, and too aesthetically subtle and endlessly creative to be explained by physical factors alone. I believe that a more plausible and comprehensive explanation is that the universe is informed and pervaded by a fundamental holistic patterning which extends through every level, so that a constant synchronicity or meaningful correlation exists between astronomical events and human events. This is represented in the basic esoteric axiom as above, so below, which reflects a universe, all of whose parts are integrated into an intelligible whole. From this perspective, the planets themselves are not causing anything to be happening in our lives, any more than the hands on a clock are now causing it to be 7:30 p.m. Rather, the planetary positions are indicative of the cosmic state of the archetypal forces at that time. The fact that the planets constantly seem to indicate these things with such accuracy simply suggests that the cosmic order is much more profound and pervasive than our conventional beliefs have assumed. But the relationship between a specific planetary pattern and a human experience is best seen as one of meaningful correlation or correspondence, not one of simple linear causality. And this is from a document which I will include the link to for anyone who wishes to read, An Introduction to Archetypal Astrology by Richard Tarnas. Now, this is a basic kind of a great document, especially if you're just learning astrology. I wish I had had this when I was started. It was really great going through the archetypes of the planets. It's great. But when I read that, I had to sit with it for a minute. It's like, okay, so the planet, and of course I always try to think things through, and please, like, if you have other things, please tell me. But if we are all a part of this cosmic pattern, then the planets are just as much influenced by the cosmic pattern as we are, not necessarily us being affected by our planets. And that these archetypes are developing or coming online, or kind of like there's this orchestra going on, and then Aquarius, and here's Capricorn, and here's Gemini, and here's Sagittarius, and here's Taurus, and so as you're bringing up the different archetypes for reasons that we don't quite necessarily know. And then that is what dictates the behavior of the planets. I don't know. I enjoyed that. I thought that actually makes a lot of sense. And that the entire universe is likely going through something very similar on a much, much, much higher degrees and much, much, much lower degrees, right? Of course, because it's an infinite scale. Just something to chew on. That's all. Just something to chew on. So when we're talking about the eclipses, astrologers know that the eclipses don't have anything to do really with the moon per se. but rather the nodes, the north and south node. And that's kind of really what I want to talk about today, and how the north and south nodes are such huge indicators of our life path, and really where it is we're meant to go, and our focus points, and when we're talking about our personality and why we make certain decisions, like we always look to the nodes, because we tend to just align with them very, very well, very easily. So let me see where I really wanted to start. Let's talk about what the nodes are, okay? Let's talk about the mythology behind the nodes. So I pulled up this website. I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to reference it while I'm talking. Just the basic, I'm going to be looking down, but just the basic kind of story. It's more complicated than this, but just to give you an idea. So after a long war, the gods and the demons decided to cooperate, okay? And they created this galactic material called the Milk Ocean, okay? This activity created Amrita. Again, I probably am mispronouncing that, I'm sorry. But this is a nectar of immortality, but it was intended only for the gods. However, one of the demons, it was sitting between the sun and the moon, stole a little bit and took a little sip. Now he is immortal. Lord Vishnu, to punish this demon, cut off its head. Okay, but now because it's immortal, he needed to find a place to put them. So he put them in these particular places in the sky. So now, twice a year, as the sun and moon, we get the eclipses, it creates confusion, because here's this demon interrupting this process, and it kind of throws a wrench in our spokes a little bit, okay? What did I have here? These are essentially the placements in our chart, or the placements of the placements of the charts are the indicators of certain very loud, chaotic places in our life. And they represent what we absolutely must do to be freed from worldly desire. Now, I know, as I have my South Node in Scorpio in the 2nd house, and I have my North Node in Taurus in the 8th house. Of course, I'm like Scorpio, Taurus stuff all the way 100%. It makes sense that I'm making money with tarot and astrology and spirituality and digging deep, and I really do in many ways feel like I do help people in kind of a psychological way. No, I'm not a psychologist, no, of course not, but when we dig really deep and people are extraordinarily open with me, they share their deepest, darkest secrets with me, and yet I didn't choose that path in a weird way. It chose me, right, kind of thing. And I know I'm a co-creator of that, but that's kind of the essence of a Rahu Ketu. Now, Rahu is the head part. We call it the North Node. I have this little graphic here. So on the left here, we have Rahu, the head. On the left, what did I say? On the left, we have the head. On the right, we have the tail being the South Node. Rahu, or the head, or the North Node, is extroversion. It's the material world. Now, I've heard different things, Rahu being associated with both Aquarius and also Taurus. I think they both kind of make sense, but the South Node is always Scorpio, exalted at least. They're not technically rulers because they're not technically planets, but Scorpio for the South Node indicating deep introversion, indicating depth of truth, conservatism. What else does it indicate? It's more an enemy of the sun. And actually Rahu Ketu are enemies of the sun and moon, which is why when the eclipses come, the nodes swallow That's what the word they use. The nodes swallow the sun and moon. And we kind of get this graphic effect. I know I'm kind of going all over the place. I had a feeling I was going to struggle with this a little bit. Simply because the concept is more, it's a weird esoteric concept, if I'm being totally honest, because when I'm reading all these things and I'm watching these things on YouTube and stuff, I'm like, I think that the understanding of your north and south node really must come from and through meditation alone, because you're going to be going about attaining your destiny in such a very specialized kind of way. But this snake here is the representative of Rahu, north node, going so far in one direction, and Ketu, south node, going so far in the other direction, but they end up kind of recirculating back together and unifying, which is why I talk about that in the intro. And what it reminded me of was actually this Taurus concept, as they talk about the shape of the universe. And even when we talk about our own human energy, we as a universe are also emanating this Taurus energetic field from our heart chakra. And there's this vortex in between. And I do feel like that is very, very similar to this. And it is the balance of one toward the other, where eventually we may go so far in one direction that we find ourselves on the other side, just like, holy cow, how did I even get here? Not really knowing, not really seeing the direct linear path. It's almost kind of like a portal. And I do personal readings for people all the time when they ask me what is my life purpose. And every astrologer, we always go to like a Pluto position and a north and south node. Those are the main kind of points that we go to for reference. And you would be amazed at how many people are already on their north node, focused on their destiny. They're already achieving that and not even really knowing. They're already on that path and they have no idea that this is exactly what they're supposed to be doing, because they're so still focused on their south node stuff, right? They're so focused on, in a weird way, our K2 or our south node represents this place where we have a lot of experience from past lives or whatever, right? So we come from that place, we come from an understanding of that place. But as we're here in this life, we are meant to let go of that and move into an unexplored terrain. And so we don't feel comfortable where we're supposed to feel comfortable, but we don't feel comfortable where we're supposed to go. And so we kind of weirdly get trapped in the middle. That transition that happens so it's like abruptly and subtly at the same time, and we have no idea when we made that transition. Just all of a sudden we're just there. Like even today I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Like I didn't even really realize that that's where I was wanting to go. I didn't plan for that. I didn't try for it. It just kind of happened. And our destiny is often something that just kind of happens randomly, unexpectedly. Boom, you're there, right? My favorite is always the Leo North nodes, which is where we are at right now. People who have Leo and North nodes, these are often like rags to riches type of stories, where the South node in Aquarius, right? So they're coming from this place, of course their house position matters as well, but they're coming from this place of the ultimate self-sacrifice, right? The hive mentality. And they're very focused on friends and family and very focused on doing things together with people, because they genuinely believe how much better it is that 10 heads is better than one. Well, here they are in this lifetime headed toward Leo. And some people really struggle with boom, here I am, Leo. I'm the royal person, I'm the king or queen, I get to own my heart. And I see that axis struggling. The fixed sign axes are really tough. The Scorpio, Taurus. Actually, I have the same kind of north and south node as Kurt Cobain. I was researching famous people who had that. He's the one I remember. But Kurt Cobain, because you can get so caught up in the Scorpio part because it's so extreme and so intense. And to come out of a place of emotional extremes is difficult. And same thing with Aquarius, Leo, right? To come out of this feeling and this working of humanity to being, look at me, look at me, look at me, here I am, and to really hone and establish a voice, your feeling of self-expression. It's almost kind of like you're working backwards in many ways. And, you know, I think the easiest, quote unquote, easiest thing, we all kind of have difficulties with it, but it's like the Sagittarius Gemini axis. I think that's kind of like more educational based, more spirituality based, and it's not so intense. But the kids who are being born now with the Leo North Node, you know, they're going to be a hive mentality for sure. I often see a lot, I do a lot with Pisces, Virgo axes too, where in their most recent past lives they were Virgo, right? Their South Node is in Virgo, and now they're having to make their way into the Pisces realm, coming out of the very practical, mundane, service-oriented kind of nature, and then moving their way into this extraordinarily spiritual place, and accepting their level of spirituality because they have that self-criticism of Virgo, but now they're being called up to have this, I love everyone, you know, everyone's connected, we are one, we are universe, we are God, and it's this essence of Christ consciousness, and Virgo does have a hard time with that transition as well. Aries, Libra, you know, you have the relationship versus the being single or being alone, being independent. So, I mean, you can see how these major things, I mean, of course, the 12 major archetypes, of course, but how they become such themes in our lives. So when we have this eclipse season happening and this creature of confusion comes up and swallows our sun, and affects our moon in kind of a very weird, disorienting kind of way, you can see why these times feel such like growth periods, you know? Like I keep talking about this time last year when I was in Budapest and I was going through my spiritual crisis. And I remember that video, and I remember throwing my hands up and being like, what is consciousness? Like, what is that even? Who even knows what that is? And being so frustrated with this idea of consciousness and this idea of God and the creator of the universe. And I was just barely reading the Kabbalion at that time. I just read, that was like my first book, my intro book, you know? And look how far, I know I've come a long way. I look back, I'm like, oh man, was that just a year ago? It seems like I've gone through so much growth that it could have been like 10 years ago. Sorry, I've got someone texting me. Let me actually quit this program here, otherwise it's gonna probably keep going. Okay. So, let's see what else, what other my notes do I have here. If you study nothing else in your chart, study your nodes. If you study nothing else, I think that it helps you so much with making decisions, right? Because the ultimate goal is to break free from those worldly desires. What else, what else, what else? Yeah, I wrote down, it's like a compulsion. Like we can't help but, like for me, I can't help but learn more about astrology. I can't help but learn more about spirituality. Like I don't have a choice. It's like this passion that you're just built, it's just so built in, you know? And like people with a North Node in Capricorn or 10th house, it's like they can't help but go have amazing careers. They can't help but get out there and be seen by people and have networks and build themselves up. Like you just can't help it. Even the Leo South Node, Aquarius North Node, they can't help but be humanitarians. And hopefully through the course of this lifetime, at some point, that person will cross that bridge. It's good to try to find the balance between the two, right? Because the God energy is always found in the center. It's never found in the extremes, right? As we've seen before. So here we have the eclipses. It's conjuncting Mars, squaring Uranus, Aquarius, super hot and heavy. Yes, I know. Realigning with our place in the cosmos. Not allowing earthlings to be a menace to the cosmos anymore. Yes. So it'll be an interesting couple of weeks, I think, with our interpersonal relationships, with our friendships, and the people that we're dealing with on a consistent basis. You know, I feel as though our group of people, weekly bump people, you know, I think our hearts are starting to really lead in mass. And there are so many people on YouTube that have such great content similar to mine, people that I learned from. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. And we're seeing these numbers just like getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And people on an individual scale are becoming more and more fearless. I mean, we've got the whole, especially in the United States, the police, African American kind of movements, the female movements. There's all these movements going on, and people in just like grocery stores are starting to stand up for themselves in real way and be like, you can't treat me that way, you can't treat this other person this way, because this culture of fearlessness is really coming online. I saw a video recently, let me see if I can find it. If I can, I'll put the link down below, of a girl who, I don't know where she was coming from, but there was like an illegal immigrant who was being deported back to Afghanistan. He wasn't like a criminal, he just immigrated illegally. So, I mean, whatever on the laws on that. And here she is standing up on this flight, civil disobedience at its finest. I'm within my rights, I'm not breaking any laws. Talking to the pilot, will you please release him? You are sending him back to Afghanistan, because a pilot can say who flies and who doesn't fly, right? So she's requesting that the pilot not allow this man on his airplane. Standing up and saying, you're sending him back to a war zone. The likelihood of him dying is really, really high. We cannot allow this human being to be sent back to this kind of a place. She's like, I won't allow it. And she didn't, and she stood up, and yeah, people started getting really angry and mad and like super annoyed because there's like, people are being 15 minutes late from their flights, you know. And then eventually people started standing up and be like, no, she's right, you can't do that, that's not right. And eventually the pilot did dismiss him. Now, who knows if he just got on another flight and ended up getting deported back, probably. But at least she did her part. And those are like the local individual heroes that not a lot of people really hear about, not a lot of people talk about. And it is our duty to be more heroic on a day-to-day basis. I struggle with that a lot in my own life as well. Seeing a homeless person on the street, and I have this like moral dilemma. What do I do? Do I give that person money? I have money. If I have cash, I have money. Do I buy them a meal? I mean, what am I supposed to do? You know, well, what are you, can I say, what would Jesus do? Like, what would Jesus do, right? What would the entity and the epitome of love and compassion, what would you do? To be the good Samaritan, to help someone up off the street, right? But also not self-sacrificing your own life at the same time. I think about that all the time. And I'm trying. It's not something that I was raised to do. It's not something I was taught to do. I mean, I grew up in a small country town. We didn't have homeless people. You know, it wasn't a thing. We didn't have people that were out on the streets ever. Yes, people were in need, but my parents, you know, I just wasn't involved in that kind of stuff. So this is something that's only just started to come into my life, like really recently, just the past few months. like, oh my gosh, I started to care about humanity. And I know I have Uranus transit. I have two people of my generation, right? We've got Uranus, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and Neptune, Uranus against our natal and the transiting thing. So lots and lots of Uranus and Neptune and Pluto stuff happening for people my age. I'm born in 1985, so give it like a 2 years maybe on either side, and they're going to be affected by that as well. And so here's my generation, my like 3 to 4 year group of people who are like, oh my gosh, feeling this intensity of how do we help, what can we do, what can we say. And I think that as the North nodes in November make the transition into Cancer Capricorn, that caring of Cancer is going to be like undeniable, the Cancerian nurturing. And here we are as a collective going to start tapping into our nurturing spirit even more so. So it'll be an interesting rest of the year. And as we make our way into that, just so you guys know, that 2020 Pluto Saturn conjunction, it's also happening with the South Node and the Sun as well. So I mean, it's going to be a doozy. I feel so bad for my Capricorns. Oh my God! Every month I'm like, I'm literally putting my crystal on, shuffling my cards, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do the best possible reading for Cancer and Capricorn that we could possibly do. And every month it's just tough. It's just tough. Their souls, I think, really, really needed to work some stuff out and be the leaders, you know, to step up, to learn how to step up. They're so tough, and they are just handling it like troopers. I don't know how to have the heart to remind them that South Node is coming into their sign soon. I don't know how to say it. They can handle it, I know. I just, every month it's always something. So anyway. Okay, you guys, I'm going to leave you with that. I wish you nothing but the best. It's going to be a good week. Enjoy. No stress. Let the internal stuff happen. Let the outside do its thing. Let the Wheel of Fortune kind of work its little puppet magic, allowing doors to open, allowing relationships to come in, allowing messages to come in. If they do, if not, it's okay. And just allow yourself to go with the flow. All right? Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.